Welcome to Using Your Teacher Voice, Season 2, Episode 3, and welcome to Digital Citizenship Week. This week, the Department of Education, the Indiana Department of Education, is partnering with Common Sense Media to provide resources to teachers and students and parents about how to navigate this increasingly challenging digital landscape that we live in. And I think it's important for teachers to kind of revisit this idea and talk to students about this and to work with students about this, because it is such an important part of their lives. It is, there's very few things that the student does that doesn't somehow involve social media. It is such an intertwined part of their lives that everything they do is somehow impacted or related to or expressed on some form of social media. And so it's important for students to understand these ideas. I think the problem is, though, that many teachers don't necessarily see social media or digital activity the same way as students do. I saw a graphic the other day that said that this is the first time in history that there have been 4 generations of workers working side by side. Baby boomers, baby busters, Generation X, and the millennials. And with those groupings, it came with how they communicate. So the baby boomers, they had write me, whereas baby busters were call me. The Generation Xers were email me, and then the millennials were text me. And while that might be an oversimplification of the different groups and that concept, I believe that the idea is still accurate and valid, and it's something to make us think a little bit. Because teachers, unfortunately, are coming from a different generation. They look at social media and the digital landscape in a slightly different way than students do. And so it's really easy for students, to think one way and to act one way, and teachers and adults and parents see it totally differently. And then there's this reaction, and then there's a struggle between the two. And it's not necessarily what was done is right or wrong, but it looks different to different generations or different groups. So I think it's important to talk to students about, not necessarily give them a set of rules, do this and don't do that, but to give them some tools by which they can live their digital lives in a way that is consistent with their generation, consistent with their lifestyle, but still allows them to be productive, appropriate members of the digital community as a whole. I think the first thing to really impress upon students is that once you put something online, it is there forever. It never goes away. Now, it may be harder to find in some ways or another, but there are many cases out there where people put something online, delete it, and then somehow later it resurfaces. It may be harder to find. It may be something that you necessarily can't get because you don't have the technological skills to re-find some of those deleted posts, but there are people out there that do. And this becomes a challenge. I think also with the idea that we live in a digital or in a data economy or in a data-driven world, data has value. And because data is valuable, has a price on it, or it has some sort of worth, it gets kept. And so, all these things that we put online, they're not going away because someone thinks that it is, or it might be in the future valuable. Something they can sell, something they can use, something they can build off of. You hear stories all the time of after somebody dies, the kids go into the house to clean up after their parents, and they find boxes of baseball cards, from the invention of baseball cards. And, it's because that person felt that those cards would be valuable at some point, and they kept them. So students need to understand that once something goes out there, it's never going away. It is never going away. I think, secondly, I think it's important for students to understand that once you put something out there, you've lost total control over it. There is no way for you to control how or by whom or when that information is accessed or used. What happens to it is totally up to that next person, whoever runs into it. Snapchat's a very popular platform with a lot of students. The idea that, you take a picture and then it disappears in a certain amount of time. Even the fact that if you screenshot it, if somebody screenshotted it, you still get a notification. So-and-so screenshotted your picture. But even that, so what? I mean, realistically, so what if they know that that somebody took a screenshot of that picture? It's gone. They have it now. And you can't control what happens to it after that, even if you do. There are just, countless numbers of stories of kids who've shared a picture with somebody, and whatever that picture might be. And then that picture gets shared to somebody else. Either, one person shows it to another, or they email it, text it, they repost it. Those things just keep going, and there's no way for you to bring that back. I think branching off of that, students need to understand that, not only do they lose control over how it's distributed, but they lose control of how it gets used. What happens to that picture and how it is used and where it is used and for what purpose, that's all gone. Another point to touch upon, to re-emphasize, is the idea that many of the things that we post have no context. When I see a picture, when I see a post, when I see a message, or whatever it might be, you understood what it was and you understood the backstory. You knew what led up to it. You know what the picture was about. You understand the message that you were trying to convey. You know what emotion that evoked in you and made you want to post that picture. You understand all that. You know all that. That was your picture. That was your experience. That was your moment. But the person that comes along later and sees that, they don't have that context with which to view that information, that picture, that post, that comment. And it isn't sometimes what was posted, but it's how it was received that causes the problem. That when somebody later comes along and picks it up, they don't understand why. They just say, oh, why would they have done that? Or this says this about them. Similarly, people take like the posts that you have, the concepts you have, the ideas you have, the pictures you have, and taking all those things together as one piece, it allows the viewer to start to draw some conclusions about you. Who do you follow? What do they follow? What do other people post? How do you interact with things that other people post? If I see, pictures of, if I see posts about NBA scores and NBA teams, and then a post that was automatically generated from Amazon when you bought some athletic shorts, maybe a picture of you standing in front of whatever NBA stadium, I draw conclusions about the fact that, okay, so you're athletic, maybe you're probably into the NBA, your favorite sport's probably basketball. Those are fairly easy, and that isn't too big of a deal. But what happens when I start looking at the people you follow and the language that they use or the pictures that they post? You are the sum of the people that you hang out with, and that those people put a little light onto you, right, wrong, or otherwise. It is out of your control. Again, I think that these are important conversations to have with students, and I think that students need to understand that adults have the benefit of seeing the world from a longer viewpoint, from experience, and understanding that, it isn't about controlling what students do online. It's about giving them the tools to do it appropriately and in a way that doesn't damage their digital reputation. These are important conversations to have, that they should be had regularly in all subject areas across the year. You can find more resources on Indiana Department of Ed's website where they talk about digital citizenship. You can go to that area. Also, Common Sense Media has a lot of tools that students and parents can use to talk to students about these things. So go out and have a great digital citizenship week, and remember, what you post is part of who you are.